Hi there, I'm Heather for Garden Design, and today I want to show you just how easy it is to dig dahlias. Now, if you live in zone 8 and higher, this video really doesn't apply to you. Zone 8 and above can leave those dahlia tubers in the ground. They will overwinter just fine. But if you're in a cold climate like I am, I'm zone 5B in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, I have to make some decisions about what I want to do with my dahlias. And I can either leave them in the ground where they will freeze and die. Dahlia tubers are very tender, or I can dig them up. I like to dig mine up, and after several years of trial and error, I've found a storage method that works like a charm every time. The cue to dig your dahlias happens after your first hard frost, and when that happens, the dahlia foliage dies back and it will blacken and just look really pitiful. But that's your cue. But you don't want to dig right away. You want to give it 1 to 2 weeks after that hard frost before you cut them back. By waiting 1 to 2 weeks after that first freezer frost, you give your dahlia plant plenty of time for all the starches that are in the top part to travel down into the tuber. It'll signal it to go dormant, and it also helps to overwinter them, makes them a little stronger for that overwintering process. I have several varieties of dahlias that are planted on this trellis that surrounds my air conditioner. So what I like to do is go in and put some labels on these so I know exactly who's who before I go ahead and dig. Like a lot of things in the garden, there's a lot of trial and error, and over the years I've discovered what's worked best as far as labeling as well. So early on, I would put some sort of abbreviation on the tuber based on the name of the dahlia. And then the first year that worked great, and then the second year I did the same thing, and for whatever reason, those markings wore off, and then I didn't know who was who. So I decided to go ahead and use some marking tape. Now, marking tape is really inexpensive. You can find marking tape in your big box stores in the marking section where they sell the property line flags and things of that nature, and it comes in all different colors, so pick the color you like. Write the name of your variety on there, and then I like to tie them to the base of the plant before I go ahead and cut them back. Once everything's labeled, I can go ahead and cut all of my plants back, and I like to leave about 6 inches of stem for each plant. What you want to avoid is cutting them back and then not digging them. You don't want to leave them in the ground after you've cut them back, because as you can see, their stems are hollow. So if you should have a cold snap and moisture gets in there and it freezes, it could travel down into the tuber, and then you could have some issues with the tubers. You want to make sure you dig them up right after you cut them back. Now that the dahlias are all cut back, I can go ahead and dig them up. And you want to make sure you're not digging too close to the plant, because you run the risk of piercing the tubers. So I'm going to start my digging out here and come all the way around and then lift. So the next step is, once you get your dahlia tuber out of the ground, the next step is you want to give them a good rinse so you can start inspecting your tubers. And this is the step where things really get messy, is rinsing off all of your dahlia tubers. Wow, what a difference. Look at that. And this is a really nice clump. So it's hard to believe that this started out, and this is probably the mother tuber here. It's massive, but look how big it multiplies. Speaking of multiplying, I'm not going to divide my dahlias right now. I like to divide them in the spring. I find it's a lot easier to see the eyes and get some good divisions in there. So we're just going to move on to the next step, but I just want to show you what that looks like. That's quite a clump. Moving on to part 2 of dahlia digging and storage for a cold climate gardener. So, and it is a labor of love. It does take some time, but it's so worth the effort, especially when you consider how beautiful they are in the late summer into fall garden. So I wanted to show you the difference though, because every dahlia is different. Some are prolific tuber producers like this one. It's hard to believe, this is probably the mother tuber here. This is Cornell Bronze, it came from one tuber. And then this one is Stolz von Berlin. And you know, some just produce more tubers than others. Doesn't mean it's any less healthy than the more prolific ones. They're all different, so don't be discouraged by that. So now we're just focusing on, now that we've got all of them rinsed and dry, I typically like to let them dry for about 2 days. And I have them hanging out here on my garage floor. So yesterday, after I rinsed them all, they were sitting out on the driveway in the sun just to dry out a little bit. Then I moved them into the garage because we were getting some cold temperatures last night. Definitely didn't want them to be exposed to that. So I put them on a mat here though, because the thing you want to avoid is putting them directly on concrete. I learned this from experience. I let my tubers several years ago hang out and cure on concrete, and what happened was concrete is very porous and it absorbed all the moisture from those tubers, so that by 48 hours later, when I was ready to store my tubers, they started to all look shriveled and puckered. So I lost all my tubers that year because I started off on a bad foot. I mean, they lost a lot of their moisture just from that curing process, those 48 hours on my garage floor. So I put a plastic picnic blanket underneath them and then put the tubers on that. My next step is involving pruners and the tubers and just inspecting them, looking them over, and I'm looking for specific things. First off, I'm looking for any damage to the tubers. When you're digging your dahlia tubers, it's kind of inevitable. Sometimes you do hit tubers, or maybe you've damaged them when you're pulling them out of the ground. And you want to make sure that when you're lifting those tubers, you're not pulling them out of the ground from here. You want to let the garden fork or your shovel do the work and lift them up gently so you're not breaking things off. So you want to look for any tubers that are damaged, because those damaged tubers can be vectors for disease and problems in your entire pile. You don't want to package tubers that already have some issues going on with healthy tubers, because it can spread throughout and then you've got a bigger issue. So like this one here, I'm going to cut this out. I'm just going to go in with a pair of snips and remove it. So I'm just going to go through all of my tubers. Anything that's kind of hanging there dangling, looks unhealthy, just get rid of it. Better to err on the side of caution. Some people like to divide their tubers right now. I find it's easier to do in the springtime. The eyes are more visible to me, so I don't even bother with that. I just want to make sure that what I'm going to be storing is clean. I like to cut off these little extra roots that are down here as well. Tidy them up as much as possible. You don't need all of this on there. Okay, that one looks pretty good. And I might take a little bit off the stem. I don't need all of that stem on there, so we're going to take a little bit off that. And I'd say that's a pretty good clump ready for storage. Now just go through your entire pile. I don't have a huge collection of dahlias. Next year I'll have a big collection, because all of these things that started out as single tubers have now just turned into these massive clumps. So when I divide them, I am going to have a lot. I'll have too many for my garden, which is the beauty of digging your dahlias. You can share them, you make more, and it's very cost effective. I always buy new dahlias anyway, so I need to make room for them. So dividing these and sharing with neighbors and friends is really a nice way to use them. Now I'm just going to go through everything and look for any damaged tubers or any disease. Now I found a sign of disease that you want to make sure you discard immediately. You don't even want to compost this. There are two types of galls that affect dahlias. There's crown gall and leafy gall. So I've got an instance of leafy gall here. I think there's no leafiness, visible here, but all of these little protrusions in here are a sign of gall. That's not fixable, and you don't want to introduce that to your pile. It's a bacterial infection that can spread throughout your collection, so you want to just get rid of it. Don't compost it. And it just looks like a bunch of little bulbous growths. And for a plant that's still in the ground, you might notice a lot of leafy growth at the base. For gall, it's irreversible. Don't even bother using your pruners on it. If you do happen to mess with it and clip at this plant, you want to make sure that you disinfect your pruner. So for me, I'm just going to get rid of this. I don't want to deal with any signs of gall. I don't want to introduce that into my storage. So get rid of it. For the sake of a better visual, I want to show you a before and after of what these tubers look like when they've gone through the trimming process. So, and you can be as meticulous as you want to be. I just like a cleaner bunch. It makes it much easier to store, takes up less room. So this is the before. And you can see all these roots. You don't need all of that. That can be all trimmed off. And this is the after. When you're trimming the tubers up, some will naturally divide themselves. So I like to divide in the springtime. It's easier to see those eyes, but when they divide themselves, it makes life a lot easier right now. So I just add labels to them, and I've got two perfectly healthy. These are burlesca, and the appearance is so different. Burlesca tubers, hang on, let me show you the difference between, this is burlesca, and something like white onesta. Look at how different the tubers are, but still all very healthy. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to show you how I store my tubers. It's a little premature for me to wrap these up and store them away. I like to let them sit out for a good 48 hours before I start packaging, but it's a really simple process and you only need a few things. Once the dahlia tubers have cured, I like to give them about 48 hours in the garage, just kind of hanging out on the mat here before I start packaging them. All I use are these bulb crates, and then I line them with a large garbage bag. Now keep in mind, people have all different ways of storing them. I've tried several different approaches, and this is the one that's worked for me. I've got my plastic bag in my crate. The next thing you need to decide is what you want to store your dahlia tubers in. I've tried several different things. You can use peat moss, but I don't use peat moss because that's a non-renewable resource. You can use vermiculite, but for me, vermiculite was too expensive for my budget, especially if you have a large collection of dahlias that need a lot of fill. Vermiculite may not be the best option for you. It certainly wasn't for me. Then I came across horse bedding. So it's pine shavings that I found at a local farm supply store. So I imagine you could pick up something like this at any farm supply store. Small animal bedding is another option, but that too at a pet supply store ends up being a little too expensive for me. So I went with this. This is a package that I bought last fall and didn't use all of it, so I'm able to use it again this fall, and it only cost me $6 for all of this. All I'm going to do is put a layer of my pine shavings in the bottom of the bag that I put inside my bulb crate. Once I've got all of my pine shavings in the bottom of my bag here, then I can start taking my dahlia tubers and laying them inside, giving them some room between each one as best I can. Then I'm going to add another layer of the shavings and move that around. Then I can go in with another layer of tubers and lay those inside. And then more of the pine shavings. Now, this is the important part and something you do need to be careful with. You need moisture in your storage container, but you don't want too much of it because too much can cause rot among all of your tubers. So I like to go in with a little spray bottle and just ever so slightly just start adding moisture in here and then maybe digging in here a little bit so you get more water in here. But certainly don't want it doesn't need to be sopping wet. You don't want it to be sopping wet. You just want to have a little moisture in there so those tubers don't start shriveling up. And you might see some shriveling during the course of the winter, and that doesn't mean they're dead. It just means that they are a little thirsty. And that is your cue to get in there with your spray bottle and add a little bit more moisture so they don't desiccate completely. Now, once you've added moisture into your packaging, it's time to store your dahlias away. The perfect storage temperature is anywhere between 35 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit. But there's a little bit of wiggle room in there. I store mine in the basement. I did try one year to store them in the garage. My garage is unheated. They froze. Even though I thought I insulated them well enough, it just wasn't enough. So I now keep them in the basement, but my basement only gets down to about 58 degrees Fahrenheit, which means there's a stronger likelihood that they will dry out because it is kind of warm in there, but it is dark. So I go in once a month, and you should too. Go in and check on your dahlias every month, move them around, take them out, look them over. If you see any type of rot, do like what we just did and cut that rot out of there because you don't want to leave something that's rotting in there and have it spread to your entire collection. There are so many different dahlia storage methods, and this is the one that's worked for me for the last several years, and I hope it'll work for you too. Thanks for watching.